Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon sets video, this time featuring Heatmor. I have two sets for you today for this Pokemon, both of which make heavy use of the new Black and White 2 Move Tutor moves that this Pokemon gets, and it got a ton of Move Tutor moves, and many of them it really needed to expand its move pool and make it a more powerful threat. But with that, let's take a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So first off, Heatmor is a mono fire type Pokemon introduced in Generation 5 that unfortunately has become a very overlooked Pokemon. For the abilities though, the first one that it gets is known as Gluttony, which is a cool ability that makes it so that you consume pinch berries earlier than normal. Normally, a berry like a Slack berry would activate when you're at 25% of your health or less, but with Gluttony, it activates when you're at 50% of your health or less. And this can be very, very useful for this Pokemon because it really, in most cases, could use the assistance of a pinch berry, and because you are weak to Stealth Rock being a fire type, you can actually activate these pinch berries fairly easily with only 2 Stealth Rock switch-ins, which is pretty cool. But for its second ability, it is known as Flash Fire, which is a really cool ability that not only gives you an immunity to fire type moves, which is always nice, but it also makes it so that the power of your fire type moves are increased by 1.5 after this ability has been activated, which is really awesome and something that could allow Heatmor to come in on a predicted fire move and then dish out some really heavy fire damage because of the boost. But lastly, Heatmor's Dream Mode ability is known as White Smoke, and it is one of 2 Pokemon that gets this ability, which is kind of cool. And what it does is it prevents your opponents from lowering any stats. Now these only apply to when your opponent reduces a stat, so if you were to use a move like Superpower, you would still get the defense and attack drop from that move because it doesn't prevent self-inflicted stat drops, unfortunately. But for the stats, Heatmor has base 85 HP, 66 defense, and 66 special defense, meaning that it really doesn't have the best defenses to make use of, though with an 85 HP stat, that is actually one of its, I guess you could call it, saving graces, because it's not low, it's actually pretty good for an HP stat, but it won't be able to take hits very well from both the physical or special side, which is kind of unfortunate. However, for its attacking stats, it can actually dish out damage from both the physical and special side very well, having base 97 physical attack and base 105 special attack. And before Black and White 2 Move Tutors came out, Heatmor didn't even have a physical move pool outside of like Sucker Punch, so with the addition of moves like Fire Punch and Thunder Punch and Superpower, though I don't have a set for you today that uses Superpower, and I might explain why later, but it can really make use of those moves now, which it couldn't before, but it still also retained its really great special attack and special attacking move pool, which is always awesome. But for its last stat, Heatmor unfortunately has only base 65 speed, meaning that it won't be the fastest thing ever, so you may need the assistance of a pinch berry like a Slack berry to help you out in the speed department, which is pretty cool because you do have the gluttony ability to work with it. But even after a pinch berry boost, and I'll explain this more in the first set, you still aren't faster than a few things, which is kind of unfortunate, but it comes with the price of having a base 65 speed. But with that, let's take a look at the first set I have for you for this video. So for this first set, we're going to start by either giving Heatmor a timid or naive nature. The timid nature will increase our speed but lower our physical attack, whereas the naive nature will increase our speed but lower our special defense. As for the ability, we're either going to go with Gluttony or Flash Fire, depending on when you want your pinch berry in the set to activate. Obviously with Gluttony, it'll activate when you're at 50% of your health or less, whereas if you go with Flash Fire, it'll activate at 25% of your health or less, and you get an immunity with it, which is always nice. But it's really up to you which one you're going to go with. As for the EVs, we're going to put 4 into HP, 252 into special attack, and 252 into speed to give us our highest special attack and highest speed possible, as well as giving us a HP that is divisible by 4, so that after a couple of rocks switch-ins, the berry will actually activate and we can just come in already with +1 speed, because as you can see by the item, we are using a Slack berry. As for the moves though, the first 2 that we're going to make use of are going to be the blasts, so Fire Blast and Focus Blast. Both are somewhat inaccurate, I guess you could say, because Fire Blast is 85% and Focus Blast is 70% accuracy. So you do have to be a little bit cautious when you're using these moves, just because they can miss. But if you want to, You could obviously switch up Fire Blast for something like Heat Wave or Flamethrower, and Focus Blast, unfortunately, is going to have to stay at that accuracy, but it's really good type coverage overall with those two moves. And with the addition of Giga Drain to Heatmor's move pool, which is a very nice addition because of the fact that normally fire types have to rely on Hidden Power Grass to do a grass type attack, I think Heatmor actually is the only fire type Pokemon to be able to use the move Giga Drain, which is really awesome for a number of reasons, but mainly because of the health recovery that you get from this, because being a fire type you are weak to Stealth Rock, as I've said already, so having Giga Drain to recover off a lot of useful HP, as well as be an excellent coverage move to hit Pokemon that are rock, ground, or water types for super effective damage that would normally want to come in on Heatmor and do a lot of damage to it because it's weak to those types. But for the last move in the set, we're either going to make use of Substitute or Sucker Punch, and it really kind of depends on what you're going for in this set and which nature you use. If you go with the Timid nature, go with Substitute. If you go with Naive, go with Sucker Punch. Substitute is there to obviously bring you to the range where your berry would activate, but Sucker Punch is also great because even after you do have the Select Berry boost, you aren't faster than things like Swellow, so having Sucker Punch for that added priority is always really nice, and even with no attack investment or physical attack investment, it's still doing some pretty good damage and enough to revenge kill. And also it's useful because if you are not at a range where the berry would activate, having Sucker Punch as just a priority move because you aren't as fast as you can be without the berry is also just really great to have. So it's whichever one you want to go with, and they both have their uses, so I would say just experiment and figure out what works best for you. As for this next set, we're going to start by giving Heatmor an Impish nature to increase its physical defense but lower its special attack, and then we're going to be going with the ability Flash Fire for sure this time. As for the EVs, we're going to put 248 into HP, 252 into defense, and 8 into special defense to give us our highest HP with an odd number, our max physical defense, and then some added special defense investment. And as for the item, we're going to be going with leftovers to allow us to recover a little bit of HP every turn, which is essential for a set like this because we do plan to stay in for a pretty long time. But as for the moves, the first one we're going to go with is Curse as a way to boost our physical attack and physical defense by one stage while also lowering speed. Now the speed drop really isn't as important for Heatmor because it's pretty slow anyway, so we're mainly there for it to have the added physical attack and physical defense because this Pokemon with a couple curses can actually be pretty bulky from the physically defensive side. And if you're wondering why I didn't do max special defense for this set, I tried that out, it didn't really work. So going just fully physically defensive plus having the curses on there is probably the best way to go for the set. But for the first move that we're going to be using for our attacks, we're actually going to make use of Fire Punch, which is a move that Heatmor did not have beforehand. So having Fire Punch now is really great because it really opened up its physical move pool to allow it to use a stab fire type attack from the physical side, which it did not have. But with that, we're also going to go with Thunder Punch because it is fortunate enough to get that as well. And fire and electric moves together is really good type combination generally. So this is obviously something that will allow it to hit pretty hard, and Thunder Punch is obviously really good because it allows it to hit those water types that would normally be dealing a lot of super effective damage to us if we're able to use the move successfully against it. And for the last move slot, we could either go with Sucker Punch or Body Slam. Both are there to basically negate the speed drops that you're getting because Sucker Punch is priority move, whereas Body Slam is a move that can cause paralysis with a 30% chance to do so. And that will obviously sometimes make you faster even after a few curses, which is really nice. So it's whichever move you want to go with for the last slot, but I actually highly recommend going with Sucker Punch over Body Slam. And overall, this is just a really solid defensive boosting set for Heatmor to use. Even though, as I showed before, it doesn't have the best defenses, when you're maxing out your physical defense, you can still take a significant amount of physical hits. Like you can live, I think I lived an Earthquake from a sock once, which is really nice. I didn't expect that to happen, but that was kind of cool. And obviously, you can dish out damage while you take hits, which is always really nice. So it's a really solid physical attacking set for Heatmor that it didn't have before, and I really like using it. So with that, let's actually take a look at a clip of me using this against an opponent that I had on Pokemon Showdown the other day. So I start things off by showing you that this Raichu killed off my Musharna, And then I try to bring in my Heatmor to revenge kill it. Rykard tries to go to a nasty plot to, screw with me, but I'm not an idiot, so I go for 2 sucker punches. And then this Raticate comes in, I set up a curse, I'm actually able to take Facade really well, which I wasn't expecting, and then I'm able to 2-hit KO with a combination of Fire Punch and Sucker Punch. Here the Haunter comes in, I know it wants to sub, and I know it might disable, so I actually switched up my moves from Fire Punch to Thunder Punch there, and fortunately for me, he actually brought in his Mantine, which I 1-hit KO'd. Now he brings in the Liepard, Fake Out does nothing, but he Thunder Waves me, which is kind of annoying, but either way, I'm able to take out the Liepard, and now this the Haunter comes in. As you can see, special attacks do a lot of damage with this set, so you do have to be a little bit careful when you're using it. But here I'm just basically switching up moves because I'm still fearing the disable. And I eventually just go for Sucker Punch to see if he's going to attack again. And at the end there, not really sure why I went for Fire Punch because obviously Thunder Punch is super effective. I don't know what the heck I was thinking, but the Golbat Whirlwind did me out, so I couldn't continue my Heatmor rampage. But anyway, thank you all for watching. This Pokemon definitely benefited significantly from the Black and White 2 move tutor moves. So it's really useful now, I think, and it has a lot of potential. So I suggest you give this Pokemon a shot. And as always, thank you all for watching, and goodbye.